I am here this evening with magician extraordinaire Yishai Rasowsky, and we're going to ask him a few questions about life as a magician, what is magic, a little bit about the Torah's perspective of magic, and maybe at the end he'll treat us to some secrets of the trade. So, the first question, of course, is Yishai, tell us a little bit about yourself, and how did it come about that a religious Orthodox Jew such as yourself entered the magic industry? Like, what happened? What do you do? And tell us all about this.
Rabbi Klein, it will be a pleasure. First of all, thank you for having me on your program. It's a real treat.
Yes, you've been had.
My background story, how I got interested, to tell you the truth, when I was younger, like my classmates who experienced tricks and they saw different performances, we got the desire to learn. And my older brother had a friend, Daniel Scher. He was my first magic teacher. And I was more interested in others and practiced and even did shows with a friend of mine, Aaron Sternlicht, a great guy. And later, I discovered when we became more religious in college years, I would be interested to perform magic or learn it, but I had thought, based on what I heard in a shiur of halacha from the great Rabbi Yitzchak Friend, that it's not permitted to do. That was my impression of the consensus of opinions. So I didn't do it, even though I wanted to. Later, when I guess heard more, did a little more research, I found out that as long as you meet certain criteria that we can talk about.
Yeah, we definitely should
really
talk about it.
So,
yeah.
For example, the main idea, which I've heard this from a number of rabbis locally that I consult with questions about, but it's probably the most famous name that people will be familiar with is Rav Asher Weiss, who I'm told by people who know him that he's actually a fan of magic. He enjoys it. And the main
Magic
criteria,
the Gathering?
well, not only that. I don't know his standing in terms of the game, but in terms of the performance and mind reading and illusions like that, I know that he finds it entertaining, interesting. The main criteria that I'm taught, and I know not everyone agrees with this, is if it's being done as fun, as entertainment, which any magic book that you read, it will tell you, you're not trying to trick anybody, you're not trying to be a psychic, you're not trying to be a phony, but being a conjurer, being a performer, someone who's trying to entertain people at a party or in a social, informal event. The idea is that it should be fun. And part of what makes it fun is the illusion that you can do something impossible that has no explanation, with cards, with mind reading, with props. That's the idea. So as long as it's done with a disclaimer like that, so I'm taught, this is just an illusion. It's just achizat einayim, not the type that's forbidden, not using kishuf, not using any powers. But as long as a disclaimer like that is made, I'm not even pretending to do it. I'm not even giving the impression that I don't want anyone to think it's real. I want it to be fun. And a lot of humor is involved in that obviously, you can pretend that you made a mistake and that you didn't really read the person's mind, but then at the end it's a surprise kicker ending where there's a plot twist, and you see that really.
Once you learn, when under what circumstances it's appropriate and halachically permissible to engage in magic or to present a show of magic, then you started, going into it fully.
Yeah, in fact, there are times where people ask that. Probably in every circumstances, one or two people who maybe they're more scholarly or maybe they're more interested in halacha or they just want to be very careful about the mitzvah because they know about kishuf and they know about kesem and things that the Torah discusses. So they want to be a good Jew. They want to be careful to do everything right. So they genuinely ask. And the people who don't ask,
so
I believe it because
you're touching on the elephant in the room. You probably can't see the elephant on my screen because it's kind of invisible. But we've conjured an elephant in the room, and that elephant in the room, is obviously that the Torah forbids kishuf. It says lo yibateh b'chamav ubitay b'eish kaisim ksabim ma'onim menachesh machashev. Right, it's the pasuk in Parashat Shoftim. So you can't do any of those things. It equates almost, kishuf with putting your son through a moilech, kaisim ksamim, I don't even know what that means, something with a stick. Maybe you'll tell us what that means. Ma'onein, Menachesh, Machashef, all these things together, the Torah says, Azr. Machashef olei sechaya. The Torah says a witch, must not be allowed to live. You have to kill her. I don't know why. A female witch. Is there a difference between a witch and a warlock? Maybe you could tell us in the halacha exactly how that works out. They say the Torah, when the Torah says tamim tia im Hashem aleikecha, it means you should be, wholeheartedly go with Hashem and understand that Hashem is all powerful and the source of all powers, and to the exclusion of other alternate forces or alternate powers, like what people who usually associate with kishuf and the like. So my question is sort of, are you violating the Torah right now? Like, what are the differences between these different psukim? How do you understand how it works out to still be a magician and not be violating the Torah? You sort of touched on it before, but maybe you can clarify a little bit more.
Yeah, I would love to expand on that. That's a brilliant point. And
I mean,
love how you
even before that, what does the Torah mean by kishuf? What is kishuf? And
Right.
what's so bad about kishuf?
Right.
Yeah, let's see what you have to say.
The part that I would like to focus on and emphasize is that it does appear that kishuf is a real thing that's forbidden, and we're not allowed to do it. It's going against the ways of Hashem, who wants the world to work according to certain laws, according to certain behaviors, and we shouldn't try to go around the system and go to a fortune teller who's going to allow us to change fate, or these kinds of things. We should be tamim tiyeh mishalom alakecha. We should go with emunah b'Hashem and be straight, not try to be conniving around the system. That's my understanding of it. But at one point, and there's so much to it, which is a lot of it beyond me, but the one point
system? You mean the system of nature? The system? What system do you mean?
Yeah, Hashem gave us my understanding of it is that Hashem gave us the laws of nature, the laws of the Torah, and we should obey that and not try to go around it by conjuring something or trying to cast a spell. I mean, there are different circumstances. For example, if something is pikuach nefesh, so maybe that's extenuating. But just focusing on one little point that I would like to emphasize, and that is it even real? Because it appears to be, just based on the prohibition of it and accounts and stories that we have. So it does appear to be genuine, yet forbidden. But there's a very important opinion to be aware of, with the greatest reverence.
Right. The Gemara talks about using kishuf to either conjure gourds or to harvest a whole field of gourds. There's definitely chazals that talk about what's a gourd anyways. Is that like a watermelon? Like, what's so special about watermelons? Or it's like a pumpkin. Like, there's some sort of association with pumpkins and magic, like Halloween. Does that have to do with the Gemara, or am I just making connections that aren't there?
So those are all brilliant points, and I commend you on that. The point that I'll try to latch onto is the opinion that everyone has the greatest respect and reverence for the Rambam, but he's kind of known in this field for positing that magic and this sorcery stuff is actually not real. It's fake, and just like we today, if you would go to a seance or a psychic or these things which are, when you see how they're exposed, they're kind of obvious that they're fake. But he said that about all kinds of kishuf and sorcery that other opinions say is real.
That in Chazal itself seems like it is a real thing.
Yeah. So the way I was taught this, and Rav Yitzchak Breitowitz of Or Sameach helped me to understand this very much, that the Rambam, who understands that magic is not real, understands that part of what's forbidden by the Torah is to do even sleight of hand, which is certainly not real. Let's say pulling a coin from behind a child's ear, one of the oldest tricks in the book. So the Rambam says we're not allowed to do that. However, on the other side of the spectrum, you have the opinions that say magic is real, kishuf is real, there are certain forms of it, and that is forbidden to do. And I'll even add, like what I touched on before, to do a performance with the impression being given that I'm doing it, even if I'm really not doing it, even if it is sleight of hand. But I'm giving people the impression, I'm selling myself as, I'm a genuine conjurer, that I can make things appear, disappear, and the like. That would also be forbidden, maybe less severe than using actual kishuf, which is very severe. But this other opinion would say that doing sleight of hand, certainly as long as I say that I'm only doing it as a trick, it's just for show, it's just trickery, it's not genuine, so that would be all right. But again, giving deference to the opinions, especially the Rambam, and there's different.
I mean, the
interpretations.
Vilna Gaon famously criticized the Rambam's position by saying that the Rambam, he was influenced by Greek philosophy, which are materialists, and they don't believe things that are beyond what can be physically comprehended by the senses, and so because of that, he's going to deny all of these sort of metaphysical or supernatural phenomena. But the Vilna Gaon's criticism is that, but Chazal do seem to believe in it, and therefore we would go with the Chazal over the Rambam on this point. But just going back more broadly, like what is kishuf? Like what do you mean by kishuf? And why? Okay, you said if it works, so you're going against the system, so maybe that's why it's bad. And if it doesn't work, what's the problem with doing it? If it doesn't work, like people do all kinds of stupid things that don't work. I saw an advertisement the other day, guaranteed 25% growth. You give an investment and it's going to grow by 25% every single year, guaranteed. No one's going to. That's not really quite possible. So, but the Torah doesn't say that that's usher. So why would the Torah say, going with the Rambam's approach, that it doesn't work? Why? So why is it usher?
So my understanding is that engaging in it as an act that, even giving the impression, even if I think some say even if you make a disclaimer, as long as you don't show how the trick is done. I'll just give an example of a story. There's a certain performer, and I could have the greatest respect for him as a magician, and I'm sure he's great. I'm sure he's great at teaching magic and evaluating performances, but he has a rule that he will not do a show unless he explains every single trick, how it's done. So to me, that's fascinating. That's quite different than other performers. Because
I remember when I was a kid, there was a show on Fox. There was a guy who was like a magician, and he was revealing the tricks of the behind it, and he had to wear a mask because it was like dangerous to reveal the tricks because the magician guild would like come after him or something. So like there was this what was it called? The masked magician? Maybe I don't even know. I don't remember.
100%. 100%. That's true because part of the
you can take away other people's parnasa by taking away the trick.
Yeah, part of the whole excitement is that people don't know how it's done. So if the performer or if the inventor puts so much effort into it, and then someone in the crowd or someone on television would reveal it, so that takes away from the ability to entertain with it. Although, I'll just add, even though a trick may be known how it's done, but if the performer chooses to do it in a comical way with humor or with the interaction with the audience, it can be very fun and it's very good, even if people know how it's done. So it's not all about the secrets, but I'll just add an experience that I had, which I have a very fond recollection of this. I was doing a family had a gathering in the home where they had dozens of people of all ages, and I was doing
and you sawed someone in half.
Well,
no, that didn't happen.
People might get nervous because of what happened. There was a teenager in the back who was whispering with friends and then called out eventually because I tried to call attention to it. Because if somebody wants attention, I'm happy to give it to them. I'm happy to call them up on the stage and let them have time to shine. That's great. I'm happy. It should be more interactive. So she was explaining how the tricks were done, and the one that she was explaining, she was 100% dead on. She was saying it right. So, as a performer, someone who's doing the show, maybe I could feel nervous, maybe I could feel uncomfortable that she's trying to ruin it, but you have to, improvise in all situations. So what I did, give her attention, call her up. For the next trick, I knew the next one was going to be very difficult to figure out, just the way that it's structured, and it's very funny, and it could have her participate along with her grandparents. So I called her up, and she's going to be the judge. So she's holding on to the envelope with the secret information, and I have the two grandparents each thinking of famous people, and the part that's a real surprise where there's no way, it can't be predicted, it's impossible, it can't tell the future. So I give that to her, and she opens the envelope and she reads it out. So the person who's the skeptic, you turn them into be your ally, you turn them to be the part of the fun, and she's laughing the whole time, and then other people, besides the amazement of wow, how could it be the impossible trick, but the fact that this girl is being entertained and she's becoming from the skeptic to be the participant.
So you converted her over.
Part of the fun. Yeah, and that's all part of the ambiance, part of the entertainment.
You created another fan of yours. Very interesting. It's interesting that there's three Pokemon characters associated with magic. There's Abra, Kadabra, and Alakazam. And from what I understand, all of these are actually Hebrew terms. Abra, Kadabra, that's a famous magical incantation. Abracadabra, this means Abra, like I will create, Kadabra, like I'm saying. Right? So that's another Hebrew term. And Alakazam, I understand, is from Arabic, like Allah, meaning like the definite article, and Kazam is possibly a cognate of the Hebrew word koisem, right? Like in modern Hebrew, kisam is like a toothpick. So alakazam is like the magic stick, the magic wand. So that's like an interesting point. There's all kinds of gibberish and nonsense. People use to add to the show to make it look more real, to make it look I'm going to say this, and that's going to effectuate the the trick or the whatever you're trying to conjure or something, whatever you have up your sleeve. I don't know what you have up your sleeve, but I'm just showing I don't have anything up my sleeve. No.
Yeah, anything to increase the entertainment, the interaction with the audience, that's one of the reasons of magic words. If you have a crowd of people, especially younger people, so they're going to shout out the magic words and they're going to do the magic and they're going to participate.
Okay, so you started touching on you started touching on what modern day poskim say about magic performances. Maybe you can give us more on the rundown of is under what circumstances is it mutter? Are there people who say that it's always usher? Like what are the different ranges of the opinions?
So I don't know every opinion. I do know there is a range, and the part that I'll just focus on that I'm familiar with is that if it's being done as an attempt at genuine sorcery, however, that would be done with the various steps that a real mechashef would do. So that would be the most severe.
Like a Wiccan coven or something?
I beg your pardon?
Wiccan, like modern neo-paganist Wiccan magic or something? I don't know.
That sounds like a viable candidate. Then the next level would be...
like sometimes when you're going down the street in LA and you see like these ladies up in the sky like flying on their brooms. You ever seen that? Yeah. So those people, they're doing real magic.
That's number one. Then there's a level of using magic to make the audience think that what you're doing is real. It's just giving them the illusion. I don't mean a green screen, or I don't mean invisible thread. I mean using actual powers, supernatural powers, to make someone think that they're seeing vegetables collect into a patch or the like, when really nothing of the sort has been done, in fact. So that would be the next level, also forbidden. But then the next level, which performers fall into, is when there's no claim that anything real is being done. I say before and after and during that what I'm doing is only an illusion. It's just for fun. It's not real. And the last thing a performer wants is people at the end saying, "Can you heal my grandmother?" Or "Can you?"
Well, it depends how much they're offering to pay.
Yeah, that's a real point that has been contention between magicians and psychics for generations. Houdini, the Amazing Randy, people of that sort.
Okay, we're gonna hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about some of the famous magicians at the end. Maybe before you give us some of the tricks of the trade. But yeah, that's what you're saying. Very, very interesting. It reminds me of the Gemara that says that magic is like Hilchos Shabbos. Hilchos kishuf is like Hilchos Shabbos. It says there's some things a person could do that are kishuf, it's chayav misa. Like on Shabbos, it's chayav skila. And there's some things a person will do that's magic, that's achizas einayim. It's aser, pater avol aser. You do it, you're not allowed to do it, but you don't get punished with chayav misa. And then there's some things that are completely mutter. The Gemara's example of completely mutter is somebody who's using shemas of Hashem to create like an animal and stuff. But you're understanding also that completely mutter is also like a person who's making something that's just an optical illusion, some sort of trick that everybody knows is not real magic. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just add, it's important because in your crowd or in your friends or at the event, there's going to be people who know more or less than others. So some people, they know anyway. If you pull out a deck of cards, they know that you're not doing real kishuf. It's just for fun. But if it's a mind reading thing or something that people just haven't seen, anything new, people think, Uri Geller could bend a spoon. Millions of people thought it was real. So the idea is to let people in on the fact that no, we're not doing anything genuine. We're just having fun. We're just having, this is a fun event. We're having entertainment together, interacting with people in the group, then that is, the form of a disclaimer that I go with.
No, yeah. I did I ever tell you the story about you heard of Rav Asher Arieli from the Mir Yeshiva?
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. So did I ever tell you the story about how I got him to say the words hocus pocus?
Tell me, please.
So I used to on Shabbos when I was learning in the Mir and living in Yerushalayim, I used to sit right next to Rav Asher Arieli by davening on Shabbos morning. And so sometimes between aliyahs, I would like make some comments to him and ask him random questions. So one time it was Parshas, it must have been Parshas Miketz, and there's the by Yosef with his brothers. So it's Rashi brings down that Yosef was pretending to use his goblet and hit the goblet and say, oh, you're the oldest son, so you sit over here, and then you're the next oldest, so you sit over here, to order the sons by birth order, pretending to know about it magically using his goblet, right? So I asked with Asher Ayel, like, isn't that usher? Like, isn't that achizas einayim? How would that be mutter? So Rav Asher did not take my question too seriously, and he didn't really have much of a chance to respond. So he just sort of turned the question around. He's like, "What? And what did Yosef's brothers think? Right? They thought he was really doing magic." So he's like, "Zaya hocus pocus kaze." So I got Rav Asher Arieli to say the term hocus pocus. But there's all kinds of stories in Chazal and elsewhere, about magic and other supernatural phenomena. Maybe you can walk us through and talk about some of those interesting stories that would be of interest to our audience.
So to me, all really I have to say about it is that it's very possible, and I don't know because it's different times. All the examples that I've seen are illusions, even though they're very amazing and they're done either by performers or people who pretend to be genuine psychics or conjurers or people from India or far off lands where they're really doing something that's very, very difficult to explain. And that's part of the amazement. It's very challenging to find some natural explanation, rational explanation for it. But it could be that in older times there was knowledge. First of all, I believe there was that also. People who were fakers or people who were conjuring, doing just.
I mean, there's a story in the Gemara where there were a bunch of chachamim on a boat, and this lady who they didn't let her join the boat. She put a spell on the boat, and the boat wasn't able to travel. Like, it's very hard to say that there's like a natural phenomenon. That she put a hex on them.
Yeah, so
without her nose going like this. Yeah.
So it seems, and then maybe this is touching on the Rambam versus the other Mefarshim, that those, I think when any one of us would read those stories, it does seem very genuine. And if those secrets of the trade have been lost or something has changed about the world of magic and kishuf, I don't know. But it does seem that it's genuine, even though I think maybe on the defensive position there would be the Rambam who would, I suppose, would have to explain those also as being just an illusion.
Okay, but without getting into if it works, it doesn't work, if things change throughout history, can you just to entertain me, give me some of the stories that Chazal talk about?
So, if we could actually focus on, let me see. Can you go to one of the other questions for now? Is that all right?
Yeah, sure. Because we're kind of running out of time, so we don't have time to go through all of the stories in Chazal, right? So yeah. I wanted to know a little bit more about how modern magic works. What goes on behind the scenes that the audience doesn't know about? Is it all smoke and mirrors? Is there something more to it? You touched on like the sort of psychological aspects, human nature aspects, taking advantage of the way people think. Why are we so easily fooled in those ways? Tell us a little bit about the experience of putting on a magic show for a contemporary audience, and how does that work? What are the different things what are the tricks of the trick?
Right. So first, the basic thing to know is how it's done. And, if you read a magic book, you can learn how the tricks are done. And that's the secret that performers don't want to be exposed. Like you mentioned, the masked magician, someone like that is going to be very criticized for sharing that secret information. But that's not really the only part, or not even the main part of the performance, because part of it is making sure that everyone's engaged, people of all ages in the audience. So knowing your audience is step number one. What is going to be fun for them? What's going to be adding value to the event? Is it a bar mitzvah where you're walking around doing tricks close up for small groups at a time? Is it a large stage show where you're trying to get everybody interactive, that they're going to enjoy the show at once, and everything in between? Or is it virtual? Ever since invention of Zoom and the need for that worldwide, there's been development of tricks that work.
For the record, we're not on Zoom right now. Just so our audience knows.
But the idea of making it fun for the person you're engaging with, also for people spectating, also for the person who hired you, and you want to give people an experience that they want to have you back. That's the idea. Of course, if you're just doing it for your friends, and I'll give you a little example here of the difference between a professional and an amateur magician. If you're just doing magic for your friends, and this is the phrase that goes in the trade, the difference between a pro and an amateur, which I enjoy both. I'm happy and supportive of both, but a amateur will show a million tricks to 5 people, his friends. When he learns something new, he'll show them, and that's great. But a professional will do 5 tricks for a million people. The idea being, do you have the timing? Do you have the entertainment? Do you have each line?
They say the most important part of a joke is the timing. So it's the same idea. It's like you're working the audience. Presenting
Yes.
what you say in between the tricks, and it's very fascinating. I mean, the Zohar says that Bilam was the greatest magician who ever lived. It's a pasuk in Sefer Yoshua. It says, "As Bilam ben Ba'or hakoisem hargu b'nei Yisrael b'chorav el chalaleim." Right. That's how we know that Bilam was a magician. And there were other magicians. You mentioned Uri Geller, who's famous for bending spoons, I guess, until he was interviewed by Johnny Carson. But even so, people continue to believe in Uri Geller. There's even a museum in Tel Aviv devoted to Uri Geller. That's kind of crazy. Maybe tell us about some of the more famous magicians, Harry Houdini, the Amazing Randy, all the different things. What made them special, besides the magic tricks, besides their personalities. I believe Harry Houdini was Jewish. I think his name was Eric Weiss, before he took on the stage name of Harry Houdini. So tell us about these famous magicians. I mean, that's an interesting thing to talk about before you actually go and spoil some of the tricks.
Yeah, absolutely. So Houdini, as you said, that wasn't his real name. He took that from Robert Houdin, who was a French magician, probably the father of modern magic, whose last name he added an I at the end to show like I'm a little version of Houdin.
A diminutive.
Yeah, and at first, my understanding of it, he would do tricks with cards, coins, and I think he built himself as the king of cards. But it wasn't until he decided what I guess was a more original act of doing escape artistry, which he's very famous for. Everyone knows the pictures of him hanging over the river upside down with a straitjacket and chains and on a rope. So these are the daring feats that really made him famous, and people really enjoyed that. And some people explain why do people really enjoy that? Is because it's kind of a symbol of someone who's struggling against adversity. Maybe the fact that he was Jewish, maybe that even helped, because the Jew is someone who's oppressed for many generations, but is able to overcome no matter what. He would invite people, in the audience. Anyone is welcome to come with any restraint, any handcuffs, any ropes, and they would tie him up. And then he would, by the way, this is an important part of showmanship, because he was known as the greatest showman of his day, and maybe even ever since. Let's say he would be out of his shackles or his bindings within, could be 30 seconds, for example. But he would wait for a half an hour behind the screen, concealed from the audience, just so that they would have the heightened suspense.
Build up anticipation.
Exactly.
Wow.
So he's someone who understood just the secrets, but
The psychology of it.
Exactly. So that's the main thing. And another thing he's well known for, and his colleagues also, and people since in the generations after him, because he's already 100 years ago or more. And what he would do is...
I think he died over 100 years ago already.
Yeah, but he's very influential, not just in the magic, but in terms of I'll call it skepticism, because he would go to a meeting of seance or psychics, and he would call them out, and he would show how they're doing it, because they're using sleight of hand or tricks that
a Ouija board.
Magicians would use. But they would claim that it's real.
I had a Ouija board when I was a kid. But
so you can do the same with them. Look, there's nothing stopping you.
Yeah.
But since
what about some more contemporary Penn and Teller?
Yeah.
W-
They're
w- Yeah. Is Penn and Teller related to Hanoch Teller?
So I think there is some Jewish blood in the Teller family, but I think he wasn't raised that way, and maybe one parent yes, one parent not. But what I would emphasize about people in the modern era, like Penn and Teller, and like the amazing Randy, who is no longer with us, but he was also
David
very
Copperfield? He sounds Jewish. No?
people very interested in truth in the sense that they don't want people to be conned. Well, I'll give you an example. The three-card Monte scam is an old street hustle where you try to guess which card is the one of the three, which you can win money based on wagering with the person who's operating the table. But it's really a scam because no matter what you pick, if you're wrong, because he confused you with sleight of hand, so then you lose your money. If you are right, then one of his confederates who's in the crowd will bet a higher amount than you, and he'll say, I'm very sorry, I have to go with the person who's wagering the higher amount. So you're never going to win anyway. So you're never supposed to play. Even if you know the secret how it's done, you cannot win. And this was something that, to their credit, Penn and Teller made public service announcements, I think in New York, to stop people from, because people really lost their money. It's serious. If you don't know the danger of cons and gambles like this, people can really lose a lot of money, and it's good to be aware of. So good job to them on that. What's more controversial is when they expose how some tricks are done, even classic tricks, that some magicians are okay with it, some are less okay with it because you want to keep the information secret so that other people can perform it. An interesting story about Randy, he would go around, again, he would make a challenge to anybody, offer whatever it is, $1 million, if somebody could prove supernatural phenomenon that I cannot duplicate by sleight of hand. He was known for going on public forums and imitating and replicating the effects that a supposed psychic could do, but he would do it with means of magic, sleight of hand, and the like. So one of the people that he and Banachek was a colleague of his, and together they exposed people like Peter Popoff, who was, I don't know what to call him, a religious leader, a cult leader, but he would take people's money for, predicting, this person has such a medical condition and now this person can walk again after I touch them on the head. But it was all a show, and he was getting information based on his wife passing it to him through a secret earphone. And he was exposed on television by, they were able to tap into the radio waves that he was getting his secret message, and it was shown the synchronicity between his act, how he interacted with the audience, and the messages that he was getting from his wife, who would tell him all kinds of, by the way, not just secret information about people, but all kinds of impolite, I can't even repeat some of the things that they would say, but it was not delicate to say the least. But even after being exposed, people are so hungry for this, apparently. They're so desperate that they want to contact their loved ones who are departed, or they want to be healed from their terrible conditions. They're so desperate that they believe it anyway. And even after being exposed, he became popular again, even more so. So this is a genuine concern in society. So gotta have a healthy skepticism.
Rav Weinberg used to say, what's the difference between a cult leader and a Rosh Hashiva?
What?
So he said that a cult leader, collects money from his students to make his own life better, and a Rosh Hashiva collects money from other people to make his students' life better. That's
it.
A good line from Rav Weinberg. What about the use of animals in magic shows like Siegfried and Roy? What do you have to say about that?
First of all, from the performer's point of view, I think it's challenging, and only if you're going to get a real benefit either for your audience, it's a real draw, which obviously they did. Siegfried and Roy, to bring in the white tigers, that was incredible. But some performers don't have the time or energy to deal with that. They'd rather to pack something that's more convenient. But whatever works, whatever's going to be good for your audience. On the other hand, the great danger of working with an animal that has teeth of that size, I cannot recommend to anybody, even if they're a professional, because we know the demise of performers of that type, including that famous duo who one of them got a serious injury. So I can't be in favor, but I do appreciate their showmanship.
Okay, so you personally, I've heard from different rumors about you as a performer that you've been caught giving magic tricks to kids on the bus, in all kinds of random situations. Keeping the kids enraptured by your presentations so that they don't make trouble on the bus and stuff like that. And kudos to you for doing that public service. Maybe you can show us over here, right here, right now, in Beitar Illit, Israel. Maybe you can show us some of your tricks and, tell us a little bit about what you do. What do you like to do?
Yeah, let's do something a little bit interactive. Let's try that. Here's a deck of cards that I have in a box that's closed, and I won't take this away from the screen the whole time. And I want you to, if you happen to have a deck of cards on you, I would be very glad if you could take it out and select any card from the pack.
Select a card. Okay. So I do actually have a deck of cards. It was actually up my sleeve right over here. You thought I didn't have anything up my sleeve. I have a deck of cards. This is a Hanukkah themed deck of cards. The numbers are regular, A, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, J, K, Q, whatever. But the suits are Hanukkah themed. So there's a menorah that's red, and there's a jug that's red, and then there's a jug that's black, and a what's it called? That's black. A dreidel, a Hanukkah spinner.
That's perfect.
How do we do this?
What I'd like you to do is pick a color. I want you to pick a color, red or black, please.
A card that's red or black?
Just name either color, red or black.
Oh, black.
Okay. Now, amongst the black, in my deck, there are two suits, clubs and spades. But in your deck, what do you have?
We have, we have jugs, like jugs of oil, and the other black is the black civivon.
Okay, so the way I associate that is a civivon would be a spade, and the jug would be a club.
We can't just call a spade a spade? Yeah.
I have a way with the words. I love it. You should please.
I have a way with words, but I'm not a wayward Jew. Don't worry.
Please select any card that you want.
Okay.
I'll even give you a chance to change your mind a few times.
I selected it.
I'd like you to take it out from the pack.
I changed my mind. I choose something else. Yeah.
Now I'd like you to turn it around so it's facing the other way from the cards. So all of those cards are face down and this card is face up.
Meaning, but then you're going to see it.
Yeah, it's okay if I see it.
Okay.
I actually...
Like this? All the cards are facing down, and this card I put up like this?
Yeah. Can you show me to the screen and show your amazing viewers what card is facing back that is different than all the others?
It's this one. The 5 of jugs.
Perfect. So you have done the following. You took the 5 of jugs, or we could call it the 5 of clubs, a black card from your deck, and you turned it the opposite way as all the others.
Yeah.
Now, what would not be possible, it would just be too unlikely, a chance of 1 out of 52, is if I knew that beforehand, and I did the same thing before we even started our interview. That would be too unlikely. Is that right? But I want to show you what I have in this box. You can see very clearly, correct?
Yeah.
You can see all the cards are the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you might notice that one card is different. Do you see?
Yeah. I wonder which one that is.
Well, the odds are against me, but you did choose the 5 of spades, didn't you?
No, we said 5 of clubs.
5 of clubs. Okay, then I'm very happy because we're in sync.
No! Okay, he's Chayiv Misa. I should have given you a straw before. With the other 8 is gone.
You're the best. The trick is that everybody picks the 5 of clubs, so don't think you're different than all the other
I figured I wasn't special.
You are. You're special to me. You're the best. But no, because you're special and I want to just share something with you. Here's something that you can do. And this is good for people of all ages. If you have any rubber bands, you can do this. If I put this yellow band on my 2 fingers, the only way that it can get onto my other fingers is if I take it off and put it on. Correct? That's simple. Laws of physics. But
because it's a complete circle.
Yeah. And you can examine this if you were here. It's a full ordinary rubber band. And I'll show you how to do it. If you put it on your 2 fingers, the only way it can jump off is if you take it off and put it back on. That's the idea. But what we're going to try to do, and we'll see if this works. When you count to 3 and snap your fingers across the airwaves of Riverside video chat, we're going to see this rubber band. So you count to 3 and say when it should go.
Okay. I should use my Etzbat Sreda?
Yeah, nothing other.
1, 2, 3. Whoa!
That's what you did. Rabbi Klein, that is what you did. But this is just level 1. There's a level 2 that's more difficult. Even more impossible. Watch. Again, the only way this can transfer is if you take it off and put it on. But if you lock it in jail with this blue rubber band, then there's no way possible that it could jump over. Is that correct?
That's right. Go straight to jail. Do not collect. Do not collect $200.
And you see this is totally locked on, interlaced. The blue rubber band is like a jail cell locking in the yellow rubber band. But if you count to 3 and snap, let's see what happens if you can do it.
1, 2, 2.5, 2 3/4. Okay, now we're really gonna do it. 1, 2, 3. Snap. Yo.
You did that. Rabbi Klein, you did that. Do you see? Do you see the powers that you have? And this is across video chat. How is this possible? So if you have rubber bands on hand, or if you're going to get them later, you're going to learn how to do this, okay? The first is...
Wait, maybe you should put on a mask so that the Magicians Guild won't come after you?
Why did I choose this trick? Because even David Copperfield, who's very secretive about his craft, this is the one that he teaches. In fact, just to his credit, he teaches people who are he has something called Project Magic, in which people who have disabilities are able to learn sleight of hand and magic tricks so that even someone who has limited abilities in certain physical areas, maybe their arms or legs, but they're able to do something that other people can't do. So it gives them a sense of dignity, a sense of something special. So that's, again, to his credit. Even though he's secretive, but he also teaches and uses it for positive purpose in the community. So what you need to do is put it on your two little fingers. And then I'll show you, this is the exposed view from the performer side. When you curl your fingers down, you want to put the rubber band around all four fingers. And you can even do that with one hand. You don't need the assistance of your other hand. You can just put your thumb in and stick your other four fingers. But they don't see that. All they see is it's around the two little fingers.
Right.
And then when you open, you saw it from this side, but I'll show you from this side now. When you open, it just comes over. Automatic.
Who would have thunk it, as they say.
And the truth is, when you put the dramatic lock of the other rubber band on, the same is true. It doesn't make any difference because it's really...
Because it doesn't go over the thing, right.
Right, it's just going around. So,
the lock is just a psychological thing to make you look like it's more, it's more impressive. Yeah.
Right. And just to demonstrate it from the other point of view, you do the same move around all four fingers, and you can see it in slow motion coming over the top, and you see it pop over. So that's something to share with people of any age. A nice something to enjoy.
So in your performances, you have any especially memorable stories from your performances that stick out, or different reactions that you've gotten from people? What do you want to share with us before we close our interview over here?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So to me, the best moments are when it's personal and when it's interactive with some kind of controversy, because when there's controversy, not in a bad way. I mean, of course, when someone's challenging, someone wants to be the skeptic, when someone says, okay, well, let's try to do a trick on him. So then I try to do the most challenging or the most fun and difficult to figure out trick on that person. And then when the skeptic is won over, at an anniversary party, there was someone like that. So I called up him and his sister, and they did a two-person mind reading trick where you're supposed to think of any person in the world, alive or dead, a man or woman, and that person is predicted. And the fact that it's someone who was building up a whole persona of anti and being against it, and you cannot read my mind, you cannot predict this. So when someone like that is won over, in a sense, all in the name of fun, so that's a good element to add. And what I try to do in every event is make it personal for the person who's hosting. So if it's the bar mitzvah boy, if it's the anniversary couple, something to do with that person, their name is a good example of something to end with on a finale that's a surprise and it's a possible
what do you mean with their name? What do you do with their name? What's the a banner that says their name on it?
If I tell you, then it won't be a surprise. But still, the fact that I'll just describe one of the tricks that I do. I try to do it in every show. Is one person comes up with a random number through calculations, multiplications, some random number that they never would have known they would have arrived at. Another person has a dollar bill.
Well, nowadays you just ask ChatGPT, give me a random number.
Yeah. There's definitely
it's like a lucky 8 ball.
Yeah, that's true also. And the prediction, which one person has been holding in their hand the whole time since the beginning, is a poster of a long number. So it turns out in the finale that the person's prediction, which is long as or more than a series of lottery numbers, it's a long number of digits, is predicted on the poster. And the dollar bill that the person's been holding the whole time, which I've never touched, is the serial number on that bill. And when you flip the whole thing over, so it spells the name of the birthday boy or the bar mitzvah or the person who's the guest of honor. So that's a way to make it personal, to make it impossible, to make it surprising, just to end with a bang. That's something that is I try to include it because it really speaks to the audience.
Wow, you really ended with a bang. If somebody wants to book you, where can they find you? To book you on their simcha or their event, or other ways to get in touch with you. Can you help us find you so we don't have to pull you out of you?
Sure. So my phone number is 054-848-2245, and my website.
That's an Israeli
is,
number. You have an American number?
No, but by WhatsApp you could send from any nation.
From any country, okay.
And,
But you have to put a zero
yeah.
one, and then you drop the zero, right? That's for our people who don't know how to use international calling. Yeah, okay. And email?
And email is also related to my website, so I'll give you that one first. Is yishai.show. That's YISHAI .SHOW. Yishai.show. And my email also is info, like INFO at yishai.show. So INFO at YISHAI.
Do you have videos and
.SHAI.
other presentations that you've done that people can access online?
Yeah, a lot of videos, a lot of pictures, a lot of testimonials from customers are available on the website for anybody who wants to check that out, and I invite them to be in touch if they want more information.
Very nice. Okay, Yishai, it's been a pleasure meeting with you. This was an edifying experience.
Rabbi Klein, always a pleasure. Thank you for the honor.